The laughter was louder than the glass bottle shattering on the pavement, loud enough to make people stop and stare, yet no one moved. In the bright, unforgiving daylight of a busy street, an elderly couple stood frozen as sticky, dark soda dripped from their hair, their shoulders, and their trembling hands. The world seemed to slow as their dignity was stripped away in front of strangers who pretended not to see. What no one knew in that cruel moment was that far away, their son, a trained warrior who had faced death more times than he could count, was about to walk back into their lives in a way that would change everything forever. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and silent strength, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Light of Kindness right now, because stories like this remind us why compassion still matters. The couple's names were Harish and Meena Verma, and they had lived most of their lives quietly, never asking the world for much. Harish had worked for 4 decades as a street-side watch repairer, his fingers trained to handle tiny, fragile parts with patience and care, while Meena had stitched clothes for neighbors and raised their only son with the kind of simple love that required no grand gestures. They had known hardship, hunger, and long seasons of uncertainty, but never once had they complained. That afternoon, they had only come out to buy medicine and a loaf of bread. The sun was high, the sky painfully blue, and traffic roared as it always did, indifferent and restless. As they crossed a narrow road and paused by a small tea stall, a group of young men stood nearby, laughing too loudly, teasing one another, fueled by the arrogance of youth and the belief that they were untouchable. The first bottle of cola was shaken deliberately. The second was opened like a weapon. A sudden splash of cold, fizzy liquid hit Meena's shoulder, soaking her faded sari. Before she could even understand what had happened, another bottle burst against Harish's chest, sending a wave of sugary darkness across his worn-out shirt and thinning white hair. The boys burst into wild laughter, clapping, whistling, performing for each other as if they had achieved something great. People nearby froze. Some looked away. Some pretended to be busy with their phones. No one stepped forward. Harish's hands trembled as he tried to brush off the soda, but it only spread further. Meena adjusted her glasses with shaking fingers, blinking rapidly, trying not to cry in public. They did not shout, they did not curse. They simply stood there, embarrassed and small, the way old people sometimes do when they feel like they no longer belong to the noisy, careless world. Inside their small home, sunlight filtered through thin curtains, falling gently on old furniture and familiar walls. Arav sat between them, holding their hands. They spoke about the years they had spent apart, about the nights Meena prayed for his safety, about the days Harish wondered if his son was eating well. Arav spoke of oceans, storms, and skies that touched the earth, yet he left out the worst parts, not because he was weak, but because he didn't want to bring darkness into the light that now filled the room. Days passed. The incident spread quietly through the neighborhood like a whisper that grew into a story. People began to greet Harish and Meena more warmly. Someone fixed their broken gate. Another left fresh vegetables at their door in the morning. The boys who had thrown the cola walked past their house once, slow and silent, their faces unreadable. Arav saw them from the doorway but chose not to step out. He knew true change did not always come from fear. Sometimes it came from shame turning into understanding. Before returning to duty, Arav made one last visit to the tea stall. In bright daylight, he stood where his parents had been humiliated and looked around. The place looked smaller now, the world quieter. He realized something powerful in that moment. He had trained his whole life to fight enemies he could see, but life had shown him that the deepest battles were fought in ordinary streets, in the hearts of people, in moments of cruelty and kindness. He forgave the boys silently, not because they deserved it, but because his parents deserved peace. Harish and Meena stood at their doorway when Arav left. The sun was warm, the sky clear, and the air full of things unspoken but deeply felt. Meena adjusted his collar. Harish placed a hand on his shoulder. There were no dramatic speeches. There were no promises. Just a quiet understanding that love, when real, never weakens, no matter how far apart people go. Before this story ends, if it touched your heart even a little, please like, share, and subscribe to Light of Kindness, and leave a kind comment, because your support helps these stories of hope and humanity reach more people who need them most. Special request, please comment the word respect if you believe every elder deserves dignity and kindness. As Arav walked away under the bright daytime sky, he didn't feel like a warrior returning to war. He felt like a son who had fulfilled something far more important than any mission. And Harish and Meena, sitting quietly in their small home, felt richer than kings, because they had something no cruelty could ever take away from them. A son who carried their values into the world and brought them back wrapped in courage, compassion, and quiet, unbreakable love.